Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show and tell presented by our team here at FS. I'm going to be your host today, Michael Fisher. I'm one of the creative directors, and we are coming to you today from our FS headquarters here in Soho in Manhattan. As many of you know, we do this every month, and it's a chance for the next hour for a lot of our global creative team to come together and share things that we are inspired by currently, things that we are noticing. It'll give you a chance to hear about, the origins of macro trends that we're starting to track. Every single meeting is very different, and also a reminder that these are always available to you on demand on our YouTube channel later today. So with that said, I am going to take this screen down and we are going to get today's links up. Give me 1 second. I think our first presenter today is Carrera from our culture team. Hi, Carrera.
Hey, Michael. I'm here in the office with everyone, so I'm speaking from two screens. But my first link today is an update on a project we've been working on for a little bit in conjunction with the Vove. And this project really came to fruition during the pandemic when we saw so many people unable to get into galleries, really experience the beauty of art. So the goal of this project was to kind of bring that art experience to your home, to anyone's home, in a push for full accessibility of the art experience. And on the Vove platform, we're just looking at one of them right now. We're looking at specifically the Sarah Bland exhibit, which is fantastic. It explores concepts of identity and the body and what it means to like live in different bodies in society. But this is just one of 15 different institutions that partnered that are all free to explore online in this high functioning VR landscape. I want to mention that some of the other institutions included are the Tate Modern, Goldsmiths, Hayward Gallery, the Drawing Room, and National Galleries of Scotland. So some really amazing names partnered on this to bring some really exciting art. And we'll put a link to where you at home can explore these different galleries. And then also we are in conjunction with this, Fashion Snoops is having tomorrow a webinar that we'd love to invite you to. There will be a link on this document, but we'll be looking and investigating 3 specific galleries from the collection, from the 15 collection, and investigating how art and technology can be used as a tool to understand ourselves, our place in the community, and also our role as stewards of the planet. Lily, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm excited. You guys should definitely join. It's the first time we're ever we've always used art as inspiration in a lot of our research, but this is the first time we're actually connecting our macros to a real exhibit in this partnership with the Vove. So definitely join us tomorrow, and Sarah will put a link. We'd love to see you there. It's an interesting concept of how to, gather inspiration from actual art exhibits, which we know many of you do, but we get to explore it with you in real time. So join us.
Yeah, so to reiterate, that is the platform that is available at all times for you to explore. And then tomorrow specifically, we will be doing a webinar exploring 3 of those galleries. If you're interested in joining us, we'd love to have you on. Okay, so this next link was actually shown to me by our freelancer, Fiona, but it's called MobiMart. And this automated roaming store. There's no one in it. There's no staff. It kind of just like roams around and brings the retail experience to you. It's something that I've been interested in, just in the same vein of like transient lifestyles. There's a lot of car concepts coming out that transform the driving experience. If it's autonomous, you don't need a driver. So maybe the chairs all start to face inward and it just becomes another living room or an office. And therefore, will we be constantly spending our time just on the road? And just the future of mobility being that we're constantly on the go in moving rooms and spaces, and that our even retail experiences might be on the go as well, moving towards us. Drone deliveries, I think, kind of makes you dizzy, but I love this idea of this store that if you didn't want to go to the corner to get some milk late at night, it would come to you, and then you'd notice, oh, actually, I want a chocolate bar as well. And so interesting concept here. interested to see where it goes. I think it's not street legal yet, but we'll see. Okay, so this will start playing as soon as you click it, Michael. But these are some interesting takes that Gen Z / TikTokers are having on minimalism, the history of minimalism, and their ties to like a cultural erasure. So I'm going to let her speak. There's 4 links and they're all super interesting. In general, how Gen Z is like sharing their opinions in these kind of like video essays is a really interesting shift that I've been noticing.
All right.
Name a capitalist scam that we've all been conditioned to believe is totally okay. Minimalism. Oh my God, minimalism. Remember when houses used to look like this? Probably not. Because we've been conditioned to believe the most ideal form of design looks more like this. At the time in the design world, minimalism is upheld as the gold standard. It's pushed almost the spiritual form of lifestyle. Netflix even made this documentary, Minimalism, and documentary about the important things. However, complex ornamental design was a deep and significant part of human culture since the dawn of humans, basically since people started clothing themselves. It was until about 1931, when Adolf Loos, an Austrian architect, wrote Ornament and Crime. He compares excessive ornamentation to being something that's criminal and inhuman. You can pause here to read it. It's really bad. This is him, by the way. Ugh. Problem is, this essay became a seminal text in many architecture circles. There's a lot of really good minimal design out there. It's based on a history of cultural erasure and fascism. And I don't know, I just wish more of the world looked like this. Name a capitalist scam.
Keep going, Carrera.
Yeah, yes, just other ones.
In this conversation of minimalism and cultural erasure, I've gotten a bunch of questions. What about Scandinavian minimalism? Doesn't that go back centuries and centuries? Actually, it doesn't. Throughout most of history, Scandinavian design actually looked like this. What we know today as Scandinavian minimalism actually exploded around the 1930s, around the same time that general European minimalism was on the rise, including in fascist architecture. But that's not even the most frustrating part about this conversation, because so much of current Scandinavian design was taken from Japan. Very few people talk about this. Japan was forcibly opened in the 1850s, and Japanese design became very trendy in Europe. Scandinavian artists and architects had a really easy time adopting a lot of these Japanese tendencies. That's because they both have ancient woodworking traditions. Both areas have lots of trees. They have very dense forests. Only in 2016 did the Design Museum in Copenhagen put up their exhibit Learning from Japan. It's disturbing how few people give Japan the credit for Scandinavian minimalism. Because while woodworking was an ancient tradition in Scandinavia, minimalism was not. Part 2 coming soon. In this conversation, So this is very true. Scandinavian minimalism is actually much more of an American concept than we might realize. The term Scandinavian design, as we know it, actually stems from exhibits from the 1950s. For example, the Brooklyn Museum's Design in Scandinavia in 1954. Exhibits like these traveled around the US and Canada in the 1950s. These shows laid the groundwork for American obsession with Scandinavian design and led to the popularity of things like IKEA. However, the American version of Scandinavian minimalism ignores a lot of the other really important influences that came into the movement. For example, skønvirke. Translating to graceful work, this movement was an answer to Art Nouveau. It had a huge emphasis on craftsmanship. Here are a couple of great examples of Scandinavian design are Arne Jacobsen's egg chair, Poul Henningsen's pH lamp. Rather than cheaply made IKEA products, these Danish designers were focused on high quality craftsmanship. The point is, the way we think about Scandinavian design is somewhat important. The reason it's so popular in the US could be white exceptionalism. So this is very about how Scandinavian minimalism was influenced by Japanese aesthetic. But there was another major influence that we need to talk about. That is Protestant austerity. This is a really huge and complicated topic. But basically, since Protestants split off from Catholics, we're all about simple and austere design. So while Catholic churches looked more like this, Protestant churches were more likely to look like this. But here's where things get interesting. This book is The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism. So when I talk about how minimalism is actually a capitalist ideal, that's what this book is all about. The author, Max Weber, argued that capitalism in Northern Europe was able to flourish when the Protestant work ethic influenced a huge number of people to work and develop business enterprises. Work was held above all else. Wasting time and leisure were seen as sinful. And over time, any type of opulence or over-decoration was seen as sinful as well. This extended to clothing, architecture, food, everything. Prioritizing simpler design without ornamentation was critical to the Industrial Revolution and making mass products so people could buy them.
Yeah, so I just thought it was interesting, just even the format that she's expressing these ideas and like how intellectualism is, or like the exchange of ideas is happening on TikTok is really fun and engaging. My last link today is one of my favorite journals. It's called Lapham's Quarterly. And basically the way to think of this is they put out an issue 4 times a year on a topic. So the most recent one, and I wish I had it with me, I just got it in the mail, it's on technology. And they go through different thinkers from like all throughout the past, people you know and love, like Henry Ford and Sophocles. They'll talk to like, well, not talk to, but they'll find Franz Kafka or like other famous writers and their ideas on technology and just kind of create a whole compendium of like what their thoughts were. So it's really interesting to see people throughout time kind of like fear technology or embrace technology. They have this one page that's really fun where it's all like doomsday machines from famous novels and like the, you know, the different machines that were like supposedly gonna destroy the earth in these different tech science fiction books. They have issues on all different ones, and I think I know the audience I'm talking to, they do have one on fashion, and it's fantastic as well. They go through like what George Washington thought about fashion, and then of course like they'll have a passage from Coco Chanel, but they'll also have like Plato and his ideas on fashion. So it's really cool to see one topic like approached from all different angles. And I'm personally obsessed with these. So maybe I'll get one of you guys obsessed with this as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Carrera. Always our TikTok expert teaching us about minimalism. Thank you. Next up is Erza. Hi, Erza.
Hi, thank you. I feel like I just got a history download. That was so cool. So I'm also on the culture team. My first link here is Google's Project Starline, and it gives us a glimpse of the future of telepresence technology. So they've created this realistic volumetric video that enables friends, families, and coworkers to feel like they're sitting right across from the table from one another without a headset required. And we've here at FS have been following the progress of volumetric video for some time, and I feel like this is the most impressive and practical one we've seen yet. And to make this possible, they use computer vision, machine learning, spatial audio, and real-time compression. But the real breakthrough is a light field display system that creates a sense of volume and depth and even shadows through the glass that they're seeing. This prototype is available in a few Google offices for now, and they're set to go on trial to their other partners this year. So it should make even these show and tell meetings feel a little bit more realistic.
Super cool.
So my next link is about how the Discovery Channel is launching a new reality show. It's called Who Wants to Be an Astronaut? And it aims to send ordinary people into space. So the lucky winner will get to go to the International Space Station for 8 days in 2023. And we've seen this before with the Dear Moon Project, which is a privately funded lunar tourism mission and art project. And in the last few months, they've recently expanded their search for 8 more civilians, also orbiting in 2023. I applied to both, but space tourism is just around the corner, and have no doubt that we'll be covering it.
I love this. Erza, you want to be the first trend forecaster in space?
Yes, I do.
I think Hallie on our team would maybe compete with you on that.
As soon as I realized you don't need $1 million to go, you could just like win contests. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna apply. So my last one, new creative tech tools is something else that we've been following. But this time it's in the world of accessories here in this New York Times article, where technology serves as a co-creator for the jewelry design process. Tiffany's has created the jewelry design and innovation workshop, where they've employed 60 people, and it's a combination of master jewelers, model makers, CAD designers, and tech engineers to radically advance the industry. And they believe that, for craftsmen, the hands should always be at the center, but technology should be at service of those hands. And that picture you see there is, it's inspired by leaves. And it was saying how computers have a singular ability to recreate patterns found in nature. And this process is called generative design. And then lastly, this woman, Tanya Shah, she envisions, a near future where jewelry makers and consumers both have the tools to create their own pieces. So she talks about like imagining new parents that create a necklace with the constellation of the stars where the stars were the night their new baby was born, and then embedding it with an NFT tag. And then when read by a smartphone, it could trigger like digital memorabilia for the family, kind of like a time capsule. While no one's done that before and it isn't exactly possible at this time, an NFT is more like a code and you own the piece. It's definitely likely that we could be seeing it as a digital space to hold our memories.
Thank you, Erza. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, next up we have Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danny. I'm the women's strategist here at FS. So my first link showcases the first garments by Stella McCartney created with the Milo Unleather, the new vegan material made from mushrooms. Our materials director, Nia, tracks and reports on all these kinds of new material innovations, and it's really cool to see these come to life. And the garments aren't for sale just yet, but there are some good photos here, as you can see, of what's potentially to come from Stella using these materials. She's created 2 pieces, a bustier top and a utilitarian pant. And the pieces have a bit of an athletic look with zippers and fitted elastic adjustments. The materials also look really shiny and look like they'll picture really well when they're used in editorials and such, while also looking really comfy and soft at the same time. Ultimately, the most important note here is that Stella aims, with a quote from her, to create a fashion industry that is kinder to all creatures and Mother Earth through the usage of Milo.
So cool. And also modeled by Paris Jackson, I see.
I know. Interesting. My next link is a fun one and combines fashion and TV, and one we've been talking about on the women's team a lot. So Ryan Murphy's new show, Halston, just hit Netflix. And of course, we love a show with a fashion angle. What's cool about this is that Netflix is collaborating with the Halston, the brand as it stands today, to create a capsule collection of 10 looks inspired by the Halston archive and clothes and dresses that were featured in the series. So the only other time that Netflix has done a fashion collaboration is creating just more simplified, typical merch around launches for the show Stranger Things. But this is a bit different as they will be luxury pieces. Further, Neiman Marcus and Saks both picked up the collection and will feature them in their new August windows, which really just brings back the whole excitement of the window shopping experience, which was a big part of the Halston era, and some, including me, have longed for and missed during the pandemic. Overall, I think it's just interesting to kind of see how this performs and if consumers will respond well to it, and if this calls forth a new business extension for Netflix. And my last link, last but not least, in honor of Pride Month, we wanted to highlight a brand who's done an excellent job of positioning themselves as inclusive of the trans and queer community. On the Intimates team, we've been covering the brand Parade since their launch, and they've dropped a great recent collection called the Color Outside the Lines collection. As you can see, these pieces are made for everyone, as 1 out of 20 of their 200,000 customer base identifies as non-binary. Models featured are trans or gender non-conforming, and Parade, for this campaign in particular, handed over the keys to West Dakota, who's a Brooklyn-based drag queen and artist, and they creative directed and casted the whole campaign. Parade has just provided, I think, a really good blueprint for how brands can support the LGBTQ plus community and how that it can extend far beyond just the Pride Month of June. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you, Danny. Good links. Next up, we have Nico from our culture team. Hi, Nico.
Hi, Michael.
Hi everyone, I'm Nico. I'm a culture analyst here on the FS team. And today I have a few links that I want to share that kind of relate in the sense that they all involve ideas about the future of our digital spaces. So the first one is Imbues digital fashion show, which they hosted a few days ago on their platform, where they showcase collections from Gypsy Sport, Moa Lola, and Kalina Strada, which all kind of share this colorful, kitschy aesthetic. So if you aren't already familiar with IMVU, it was a really popular social network in the 2000s where you could make these virtual avatars and meet in virtual rooms, what we now call the metaverse. And during the pandemic, there was a huge resurgence on the platform, as people were unable to see each other in real life and were also seeking comfort in nostalgic formats. So in the first month of the pandemic, me and my friends actually made accounts and would hang out in these virtual rooms. The really cool thing about IMVU is that it's maintained that lo-fi early internet aesthetic, but the outfits that creators have been creating on the platform are actually like replicas of trending items in fashion right now. So for example, you'd see things like Vivienne Westwood corsets or like monogram Gucci knee-high boots. So my second link is a clip from the show, and we can play like 30 seconds of it. The video one, yeah. Thanks, Michael. So as you can tell, they really lean into that Y2K like kitschcore aesthetic that we're seeing a lot right now. And I think it's just a really interesting way for brands to access new audiences and also for new brand expressions and touch points. So my last link is about a podcast produced by Dazed as a part of their Future World content series. And in this series, they explore important issues like climate change, racial justice, and culture and tech, and how these issues will impact our future. So this episode features two of my favorite people, the writer Gia Tolentino from The New Yorker, and she's also the author of Trick Mirror, which is a really wonderful collection of her essays. And the second speaker is Charlie XCX, who I've been a huge fan of since I was a preteen on Tumblr. And though it may seem like a random pair of guests, I think they're like two of the really influential figures of the millennial generation and even Gen Z. And they have such different backgrounds, which is what makes the conversation really interesting. And the two kind of unpack their experiences with the early internet and social media, what's great about it, what's terrible, and also where they want to see it go in the future. So they also have interesting episodes about the future of NFTs, and all the articles can be accessed on Days Digital. And that's all from me.
Great, thanks, Nico, and thank you for making me feel old that you discovered Charlie XCX when you were preteen. Thanks for that. Great links, thank you for those. Next up is my group of links. My first one is something that I am so inspired by, and I wanted to share it with you all. I saw this on the NPR Instagram last week, and this photo, in addition to, of course, just having the most beautiful colors and being an amazing photo, I wanted to kind of tell you what the story is behind it. And I did a little digging. The reason why this photo came out again last week is because it and a few other photos by a photographer named Anna Boyazes, she just won recently a contest which is all about a women photo project that National Geographic has a part in. And she photographed these women 2 years ago in Zanzibar. These women are in the Indian Ocean. And what's so amazing about it is that if you know the backstory, for years, for generations, women in Zanzibar were prohibited from going into the water by their conservative culture. Learning how to swim was considered a revolutionary act for these women. So now, not only are they allowed to go into the ocean and acquire a potentially life-saving skill, but they're gaining access to an entirely new space. And when the photographer actually went to Zanzibar a couple of years ago, women were telling her, women don't swim. And she kind of pointed to herself and said, well, this woman swims. And so she got involved with an organization called the Panye Project. And they've been teaching children and women in Zanzibar how to swim. There's been a huge number of drownings over the last few years. So this is pretty amazing. And so what the organization did is that they gave these women access to, of course, burkinis, which are, of course, swimsuits that cover the entire body except the face, hands, and feet, so that they could actually be able to get into the water and still follow their culture's dress code. So I just thought this was so amazing. Her quote that I really loved here is, by encouraging long-term cultural change, the acceptance of women learning to swim in an Islamic community is a truly revolutionary act and saves lives. There's a few other photos that you can actually see here from that same series, but the colors are what got me at first. And then once I started learning more about what was going on, it truly was a very, very interesting conversation. So I wanted to share that. The next is an article about a new exhibition celebrating Bob Dylan's 80th birthday. And it just opened at the Halcyon Gallery in London. What really surprised me is I thought I knew a lot about someone like Bob Dylan. I didn't know that he's been an artist for over 60 years. So in this new exhibition that opened last week on May 24th, they have a lot of new work that he actually just rolled out in the last year. Most of them are focused on New York City, since he has roots in New York City. This one is my absolute favorite. It's called East Harlem Elevated. He did it in 2020. It's acrylic on canvas. Love everything about it. Love the shapes, love the colors. But I had no idea that he had such an amazing, work of art that he's been doing over 60 years. So this is just some of it. One thing that really was interesting to me was that he's very much known for a series based on where he grew up, which is known as the Iron Range in Minnesota. So it's an industry-rich region where, of course, he absorbed the country and blues music. And you'll also notice that he does a lot of these paintings based on things that were found typically at that time in this very industrial era. So really, really interesting. If you go to the gallery's website, you'll be able to view more of his work. But again, I just wasn't even educated that he was such an amazing artist. This is my favorite link for today. Just last week, an Italian village just emerged after being underwater for, I believe, 70 years. There actually is a Netflix horror show from Italy that inspired this, but this is truly a very real thing. So basically, it's an Italian village called Curon, and 70 years ago, they flooded it intentionally to create a lake, a manufactured lake. So the village was underneath this lake. It's a 2.5 square mile area. And so the lake has been popular for tourism and hiking for months, but this is the first time that we're seeing this 14th century steeple emerging from the waters. You can read this whole Architectural Digest article about it, but this is what it looked like before they flooded it in 1950. So pretty amazing that for the first time in a long time, most of the structures are long gone, but you can actually see some of the cornerstones of things. This is a cellar that goes underground, which was found. So again, really cool. And if you're interested, the horror series on Netflix that was inspired by this village is called Curon, which is the name of the village. And I put a link here so you can go right to the Netflix link. And my final link for today is a new store that we have here in New York City on Wooster. This is a Japanese brand that I'm a really big fan of, Nanamika. And so they have opened this beautiful new store. It was actually all ready to open before COVID started, but then COVID began. And so they delayed the opening until just the last few weeks. So what's so great about it? And for those of you that don't know, the brand has collaborated with everyone. North Face, Purple Label, Doc Martens, Champion, Woolrich. They're a really great brand because they have a really interesting mix of fashion and function. So what's really cool that I actually didn't know is that Nanamika actually means House of Seven Seas. So they wanted to do this really interesting architecture that had kind of a marine inspiration in the store, kind of inspired by a Japanese beach house. And for those of you that are clients of ours, there was an amazing visionary that we had a few years ago called Raw Coast. Still one of my all-time favorites. I know some of my colleagues will agree, but it very much reminded me of that look. This is just some of the fashion, but here's some more close-ups of the store. So they basically utilize a lot of gabled structures, translucent panels of corrugated plastic, all meant to kind of be an expression of being on the seaside. And it coincides with the clothing just beautifully. Love how the lighting effects come through there as well. So if you're in New York City, it's on Wooster Street. Definitely check it out. All right, next up is Nia. Hi, Nia.
Hey guys, hi everyone. I'm Nia, the materials director at FS. And I've got a pretty diverse grouping of links today. This first one is food related. So actually global fast food chain Burger King is set to open its first ever meat-free branch in Germany this month. They're going to be selling only faux meat on the menu for a limited period of time. This is a global first for the brand. Beating out competitors like McDonald's, KFC, to this kind of meat-free punch that's been going on amongst fast food competitors, neither of which have trialed an entirely meat-free menu. So Burger King will be the first. And the branch in Cologne will only sell plant-based meats like soy nuggets, vegan dips, a vegan Whopper, which is actually already available in the US, and then a new vegan chicken sandwich. So I thought that was super interesting. The brand has actually committed itself to be 50% plant-based by 2031. So a big goal, but I think it's just an interesting shift that's happening in the fast food industry as well. So cool thing to check out. The next link that I have is one of our favorites. So film production company, A24, so responsible for HBO's Euphoria, Midsummer, Moonlight, Uncut Gems, the list goes on. They're actually tapping into the beauty space with a new brand called Rules Beauty. So while there isn't any clear messaging on what the brand will entail yet at the moment, they're describing it as a new A24 portfolio company focusing on the beauty space. So honestly, might be products, might be tutorials, editorials, who knows? But considering the popularity of even just Euphoria's makeup looks alone, amongst like Gen Z millennials, I think it will be one to watch. And then this article gives some throwbacks to other films from the company, like Spring Breakers. Like if you click through, like Zola's a new one coming out, mid 90s. And then just seeing their, each of the beauty inspo from all of those projects, which I thought super interesting. So definitely one to look out for. And then my last one I loved. So this is a super interesting article I came across in the art conservation space and how they've been using bacteria actually for years to restore famed statues and art pieces. So this article actually highlights the conservation of the Medici Chapel, which houses many of Michelangelo's sculptures. So essentially what these researchers do is they research bacteria strains that would easily eat away at the stains and other gunk that accumulates on these statues without actually harming the marble or the pieces themselves. So in general, I just think it's just a super fascinating article and just seeing so much continuing in the ways that bacteria can be used for good, especially since I think we can all agree post-COVID, we've developed maybe like an obsession of like fear over bacteria. But I think seeing projects like this or just like the fungal grown materials, which is super big, is just really important in reframing just, I think, bacteria in general. So great article. Check it out if you can. I thought it was really fascinating.
Wow, I love this, Nia. And I know that when we did a lot of our Thrive Guide webinars this time last year, we got so many questions about people very paranoid that, bacteria, et cetera, was just going to get such a bad rap post-COVID. This is a great confirmation that it can actually do good. Love it. Thank you. Never knew about that. Next up is Mallory. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mallory. I'm a beauty and wellness strategist here at FS. And for my show and tell links today, I'm doing a follow-up to last year when we released our sun care report. It was so popular. We've just done an update. There are so many exciting things happening within the sun care space, within beauty. We're just seeing this area boom. So I'm just giving a little teaser of the report. The full report is available on our site for clients, but I want to call out some interesting trends we're seeing within sun care. So first up is this sunscreen, if you just want to go back, that I shared actually at last show and tell. It's called Vacation. If you want to go back, yeah, there we go. It's called Vacation. It's got this really fun 80s retro aesthetic, and actually the company just released a companion perfume with the same smell as the sunscreen. It has notes of pool water, swimsuit, coconut, banana. So I thought that was a really fun, interesting tie-in. So just going on to the next one. The first trend I'm going to call out is education. National Sunscreen Day was last Friday. It's typically the first Friday before Memorial Day, so good time to remind the public about how to safely wear sunscreen, how to prevent sun cancer, how to keep yourself safe and comfortable. And brands are really latching on to this. Consumers want to know more. They want consumers to become more educated because it is important. And we're seeing brands come up with really fun campaigns, like this one on the left is Sun Bum's banana suit campaign. They're putting these outrageous banana suits onto statues across the country. This is Dolly Parton right here. To raise awareness, to know your spots, like the spots on a banana. You can tell early signs of sun cancer with these fun infographics on their site. Also, this slideshow is hyperlinked, so you can check out all these links when I'm done. On the right is from a brand called Atola. And they created this whole Let's Talk SPF report just for the newsletter for anyone subscribed to their site. They're a skincare brand, but I thought it was just really interesting how they kind of divided up the proper application of sun care and why you need to apply, when you need to apply, common myths about applying sun care. So definitely speaking to consumers' desire to be better educated on these matters. The next slide is really new forms that we're seeing. I mean, we're all used to the lotion or spray forms, and there have been some sticks within sun care, but right now we're seeing sticks really heat up. These two are examples that we love. The one on the left is from Oars and Alps, started off as a men's skincare brand. They just launched recently their new sun care line with this stick form. And the right is Shiseido's a stick sunscreen, which is really interesting. The technology they use in this actually gets stronger when exposed to water, heat, and sweat. So it's just fascinating beauty technology in that the formula is actually activated to become more potent and more protective the more you expose it to. So really speaking to consumers' desire to get out there post-pandemic, live their lives in the sun and the water, but also still have that level of protection. And then my last trend I wanted to call out are these really fun kits. On the bottom left is Sephora's Sun Safety Kit, which they've been doing for years, but it's a perennial favorite, and they really were the first within this space to kind of advance sun education and these experimental kits that allow consumers to kind of really explore what products are fun for them, you know, mix and match, try out, usually including a full size. On the right is SoCo Glam's newest kit, which ties in a bit of the education aspect as well. They had a companion education about sunscreen campaign with this, and they also featured this premiere launch of the Neogen full-size sunscreen within this. So a clever way to market a new product along with educating consumers. And then on the top left, I love from Coco Kind. They're another K-beauty brand. This is their sun care kit where they pair this really cute brand merch wear SPF hat. It's a cute accessory. Honestly, I'd wear that with their new sunscreen. So just seeing brands, you know, find really fun ways to not only educate, but innovate and keep consumers protected and comfortable going into the summer season.
Great. Thank you so much, Mallory. Good report. And then next up, we have Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole, the Kids Wear Director at FS. Today, I'm super excited to show an amazing young designer who just graduated FIT with a degree in children's wear. Hawa Ibrahim, she's a Muslim non-binary, and she created their thesis project for a gender-free collection inspired by the Islamic world for children. So to quote them from an article in Fashionista, they said that they really wanted to explore the idea that children should be provided with a broader understanding of gender at a younger age. So originally they were focused on sportswear, but when they shifted to children, they said it was like a weight was lifted, and you can see from the Instagram, just the color and patterns are perfect for the kids market. So the collection for them was super freeing. As Hawa noted, they were able to let their designs speak more freely about their religion. And there was also this sense of release at no longer having to feel like others were defining them. If you click on the next link, this is to their brand Because. And this is very much goes along with the vibe that you see on their personal Instagram, but just amazing colors, really happy patterns and accessories. And they're going to extend their collection to children's. So for the kids wear market, this designer is super relevant. There's a lot of talk about the alpha generation. So that's children born after 2010. And so, you know, there's a lot of talk about them being in a less gendered environment. So designers like Hawa are super important for the kids market because it's going to really impact design perspective, merchandising, marketing for the kids market. And that's it.
Stunning. Thank you for sharing this. The colors alone are just amazing. Thank you, Nicole. Next up, we have Patricia.
Hi guys. So my first link is Iris Van Harpen Spring Summer 21 campaign. I know that I always bring her stuff to show and tell, but I'm just fascinated by her work. So this is a campaign titled Symbiosis.
Sorry, Patricia, I had it signed in and it signed me out, so bear with me. The impression is very temperamental.
I know.
Hold on. We're gonna get it. And I tested it before the meeting and it worked. Okay, here we go.
All right, so this is called Symbiosis. And like many of her collections, this explores the relationship between nature and technology. I just love how they're blending photography and digital 3D design. I also feel like this is a great confirmation of our cultural sentiment reciprocity. We actually had a design pillar called Symbiosis in our design aesthetics report. So just amazing imagery. It also addresses the restorative power of the natural world. And I just love how she blends technology, art, and fashion. And then similar to that, I came across this young designer. Her name is Lisa Jung, and she comes from Central St. Martin's. And she's currently based in Toronto and works as a designer at the Living Architecture Systems Group. So what she's doing is kinetic fashion. And, you know, we have seen that from Iris Van Harpen herself, especially I think on her couture shows. But this is basically about, you know, fabric manipulation and incredible draping technique to create these amazing visual effects. I have a couple of links. I think the other one is also her Instagram. And then I also linked her website. Yeah, so it's really amazing how, you know, the garment itself seems to be moving. I'm just really fascinated by, you know, fashion and art combined. So really interesting thing to keep on our radar.
It's beautiful. And you got our website here. Thank you so much for that. And last but not least, we have Tamara from our active team. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara, and I'm an expert strategist here at FS. The first thing I wanted to share is in line with what Danny presented about the Mycelium clothing line by Stella McCartney. And this is basically the new sneaker concept by Adidas. They reworked their iconic Stan Smith model using Milo, a renewable material made out of mycelium. So the upper of the shoe has been grown in a lab for about 2 weeks using a vertical agriculture technique, which is also space efficient. The grown sheets of this material then are being tanned and dyed to create this leather-like look. Through the use of Milo, the brand is designing together with nature instead of basically going against it. And it's the first shoe created out of this material. We have been tracking more of this kind of innovations in our recent product shift support called BioLab, really looking into lab grown and grow materials as a solution to eliminate plastic waste, and also contributing to a more circular design process. We see also in the activewear market a big switch from all these highly synthetic materials to more natural and bio-based alternative that are also, of course, high performance. The second link I wanted to share with you is the latest work by Icelandic designer Valdis Steiner's daughter. I hope I say that right. And it's called Share and Repeat. So she proposes this idea of clothing that can be molded out of a natural material, which can then be melted and reshaped into new garments over and over again. So she uses a liquid translucent material made out of gelatin or agar. By using molds instead of using cut and sew patterns, no waste is created, and only the exact amount of material is produced for each garment. So each garment is also customizable. They are dyed by using insect-based dyes, and they don't require any stitches or seams. And you can also add like really fun patterns and structure to it. I thought it was also very interesting because the garment is customizable and moldable, but also the molds that are made to make this garment are adaptable in size and shape. So just find it really interesting to see all these new innovations, thinking differently about manufacturing processes with the ultimate goal, of course, to eliminate waste, but also this idea of remaking garments over and over and over again. And my last links are actually two exhibitions I came across and wanted to share. So the first one is the Cause Wet Party exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum. So the American artist is well known for his companion figures, which this year will mark 20 years since their first launch. His work marries graffiti with cartoon iconography and street art, it's basically critiquing and participating in consumer culture at the same time. His work opened really museums and galleries to a whole new generation. And he's really emphasizing on universal emotions like love, friendship, loneliness, alienation, which he sees as persistent in our current cultural environments shaped by image and consumption. So the exhibition showcased a lot of his earliest work, but also a lot of recent work, which you can see through augmented reality technology, which is for him a new medium to be able to showcase his work safely, but also to share them with like a lot of people around the world. So I went to check it out a few weeks ago. I think it's really interesting. And the last exhibition I want to share is the one in the London Design Museum. It's called Sneakers Unboxed from Studio to Street. And this exhibition presents sneakers as design objects and how they have been on the forefront of a lot of material and user innovation over the last years. So they present iconic models like the Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star, but also collectible from Yeezys, as well as the historic design from Adidas, the Adidas Micro Pacer, from '84, which has this embedded fitness tracking, which I thought was interesting. So the exhibition talks about history of sneakers and their influence basically in social movements and youth culture, as well as the boom in the resale market. So if you have the possibility to go if you're in London, I think it's a real must for sneakerheads or anybody really interested in the history of footwear design.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamara. All right, thank you team for those contributions for today. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm gonna turn it over to Sarah on our marketing team to close out today's show and tell.
Thanks, Michael. As we mentioned earlier, the recording of today's webinar, as well as the list of all the links that we shared, will be posted on our YouTube channel. Please allow about 24 hours for processing. And for all of our upcoming events, you can visit fashionsnoops.com/events. I'll put the link in the chat box. There you can register for all of these upcoming webinars and keep a track of where our team is speaking. But as we mentioned, tomorrow we will have our webinar with the Vove, Art as a Technology for Understanding. And then on Thursday, June 10th, we will be releasing our webinar with Cosmoprof. This is a really excellent panel discussion about empowerment through inclusivity. It is really applicable for all markets, so we hope that you tune in to watch that. And then on June 28th and 29th, our VP of Beauty and Wellness, Melissa Hago, will be speaking at the World Tea Expo. So she'll be going over the upcoming trends for tea and food and the wellness market. So definitely tune into those. All of those links are on fashionsnoops.com/events. So we hope to see you at an upcoming webinar. And for show and tell, our July edition will not be broadcast live, but we will be posting the recording on our YouTube channel. So you will receive a notification when that is available. But thank you so much for tuning in today. And thank you to all of our amazing panelists for sharing those great links.